There we go. Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Lamed Gimel and Shavuos, as we learn Frachin Kol Beis Yisrael and Sun Batzar V'Shivya. Today is Isru Chag Shavuos. We'll start from yesterday's daf, 11 lines from the bottom of Lamed Beis and Beis. That's where yesterday's podcast took you to if you listened to Daf Lamed Beis. Kafar Echad V'Hod Echad. The Mishnah is talking about this. Let's review quickly. We're talking about Shavuos Ha'edus. What does that mean? Where a plaintiff says to two Adam, you know that Yankel owes me $200. You know that. Please come and testify. And they say, we swear we don't know. So it has to be where he's complaining, where the plaintiff says, you know they owe me money. These guys owe me money. This guy owes me money. Come and testify on my behalf. And they say, no, we swear we don't know. And then later on, it turns out that they're liars. Then that's when they're chayav the carbon olav that we talked about in Vayikra Perek Hey. So here the Mishnah said that, let's say, they come along, two guys come along at the same time. Now it has to be where we had a machlokas yesterday. Let's say there's only one aid. Now one aid can't be mechayev mamon, right? You need two aidim, but he can mechayev the other guy a shvua. But if the other guy can't swear, then I'll have to pay. So that's garam l'mamon. That was a machlokas we had yesterday. Is davar garam l'mamon kamamon dami? Is it like money and he's demanding money? And you have to make a shvua there too, even if it's one aid. Or no, do you need two aidim? But if they're two Adam, the Mishnah had said that if two Adam come along and said at the same time that they deny the testimony, then it turns out they're lies, they have to pay. What does it mean, two at the same time? So as a machlokas, does it mean literally it could talk at the same second? Or does it mean one talks before the other one stops, the other one picked up, and that's toch kadei dibur is okay. So it said in the Mishnah, let's say one of them denied testimony and one said, yes, I know testimony. So it says over there that the Chayiv says Gemara Hashta B'Zacher Zed that the Kafri, where when one after the other, the two Adam, one denied and then the other one denied afterwards. They're both denying it. Amar Rishon Chayiv Hasheni Potter. You say that the first one is Chayiv. Why? Because he's Chayiv the Shvur because his denial caused him to lose money. Because when he was about to testify, there was another aid there too. They could have both testified and they both denied it. So we say if one the Zecher Zed, they weren't at the same time. They're at the same time, then they're both Chayiv. But let's say there were two guys, two Adam, one and two. Number one said, I don't know testimony. I swear I don't know. He's guilty because the other guy, there was still number two who could have testified, right? They could have testified. But once number one denied that he doesn't know, then two says, what are you going to help me? I can't help you anyway, because I'm only one person. You don't have any other witnesses. So we said over there that kafar echad v'hod echad, right? The Mishnah said back on Lamed Aleph from Beis, kafar shem gerach shneim chayavim b'zeach zeh harishon chayv v'sheni potter, because the second guy could say, I didn't cause you any loss. I couldn't have done anything anyway. You only had, when you came to me, you only had one witness. So it says kafar echad v'hod echad hashta b'zeach zeh tabayu kafri amrit rishon chayv v'sheni potter. Then the Mishnah went on. Kafar echad v'hod echad. If one guy denied and one guy admitted, me boy, certainly the guy, certainly over there, we say that kafar echad v'hod echad, that the guy who is moda is certainly patur. The guy who's moda, he knows testimony, he's going to say testimony. So kafar echad v'hod echad, me boy, is there any question that that kafar chayiv? Because we said over there, when one guy denied it and the first guy denied it, he's certainly chayiv, right? Certainly chayiv. Marach, we say that if there were two guys, the first guy's chayiv, right? The second guy's potter, because the second guy could say, I was only one person anyway. You don't have two people. I didn't cause you any loss by my swearing. So in that case, where they both deny it, the second guy is only the first guy's chayiv. Certainly where the first guy said, denied it, and the second guy says, I have testimony. I will testify on your behalf. He was moda. Certainly the first guy should be chayiv, because the kafar echad v'hod echad, he was the only one who denied it. So certainly the kafar is chayiv. So what's the chiddush in that? Why do you tell me kafar echad v'hod echad? The guy who denied it is chayiv for shvuos eidus. He's chayiv for lying, and the other guy is not. Of course, that would be the case. Even if there's two guys who both denied it, only the first guy's chayiv, because when the first guy denied it, there was still the possibility of him and number two testifying. And still you say number two is potter, but the first guy's for sure chayev. So certainly where's kafar echad v'hod echad, me boy, says Gemara lo tzricha, at the first of the white lines on Lamed Beis and Beis. Kagon shekafar shneim. They both denied it. V'chazar echad v'hod b'toch kedei dibur. Here's the point. When we say over here, one guy denied testimony and the other guy admitted that he does know, he was testified. He says, I'll testify. We're speaking where they both originally denied it. And then the second guy retracted his testimony. Toch kedei dibur. V'chazar echad me'em v'hoda, but toch kedei dibur. V'kamashmon toch dibur dibur. In other words, we have a rule, you can't testify and then change your testimony in court. But toch kedei dibur, within the time that it says shalom, the time says shalom alecha, shalom aleichem Rebbe or whatever, you can't change it. That's the chiddush. So Bishlam Rav Chisda, the Mukala Rav Yosef that he said what? Rav Yosef he said what? Where both testified ke'echad. The Mishnah said if they both testified together, what do you mean ke'echad? They both said it simultaneously. Rav Chisda says yeah, it goes like Rav Yosef He says that what? That you could be mitzamtzam, that it's possible to detect. They said it exactly at the same split second. So Reisha Efshel Tzamtzam, the chiddush and the Reisha was what? Where both people came at the same time, telling you that you could be mitzamtzam, that it's possible to say that they both testified simultaneously. The Sefer Tzarich Lashmina and Tachdi B'Kedima, and the Sefer is teaching this chiddush that if two people came along and they both denied it, and one guy changed his testimony, admitted it, then he's off the hook because he changed his testimony immediately. El Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, who says what? That when he says Ke'echad does not mean literally they said it at the same time, but rather one said it before the other guy finished. Before one guy finished saying, I swear I don't know any testimony, the other guy started, and that's what we mean by echad. So Reisha talk to the Dibur. The Reisha means talk to the Dibur. So Sefer talk to the Dibur, Tarti Lamli. What does that teach me? Both the Reisha and the Sefer that talk to the Dibur is like Dibur. That's only if they both denied it. Then you say that one denied it within the while the other one was still talking. So then talk to the Dibur is like a Dibur dummy. But if one guy, if the same person denied it and then he admitted it, I wouldn't know that talk to the Dibur is Dibur dummy. Kamashmon that it is. The Rashi, what the chiddush is. And his last thing that he said is counts. Now here's an interesting thing. The Mishnah said, let's say there were two sets of Edom, right? We had set number one and set number two. And they all denied it. They all denied that they know testimony, right? Again, we're talking where the plaintiff said, please come and testify that Yankel owes me money. And there's two sets of Edom. There's four Edom there. Two, the first set and the second set. Now the first set denies, the second set says, the Mishnah said, how you shteki to Edom. So kafar rishon v'yachkar kafar shniya. If the first one denied it, the Mishnah and the Mishnah said, v'achkar kafar shniya, shtein chayavas, meisha edus yichol l'skam shtein. Because the edus could be established by either one of them. So they're both lies. Says the Gemara, I understand why the second set should be chayav. Why? Because once the first set denied testimony, right? Denied, they don't know any testimony. All that's left is the second set. So he comes to the second set, please testify, you know that Yankel owes me $100. Please testify on my behalf. And they deny it, they should be chayav. Right? The kafar shon, because since the first set was already gone, they already denied it. So when you come to the second set, if the second set does not testify like they should on behalf of the plaintiff, then they're causing him to lose money. And therefore, they're chayav. They're chayav. El Rishona Amai, listen to this carefully, but the first set, why should the first set be chayav? L'chara, they say, Hakai Mashniya. The first set can say, we didn't cause you any loss. The second set could testify. What are you coming to us for? You go to those guys, right? Everybody wants to get off the hook. I can't scoop the ice cream, get somebody else to do it, right? So why can't they, what are you asking me for, right? Get somebody else to do it. They can still do it. I didn't cause you a loss. You still have the opportunity to get them. So why should the first set be chayiv when they swear they don't testimony? Listen carefully. Ravina, listen to this. When they came to the first set to testify, the second set couldn't testify because they were related. They were related. They couldn't test it. Now, wait a minute. They were related, not to the first set. Okay, Rashi learns that we're going to talk about. Rashi learns they're related to each other. If they're related to each other, two Edom can't testify about each other. Therefore, that's why the first set is chayiv, because when he came to the first set, the second set couldn't testify because they were related to each other. They were related, and therefore, you are causing him a loss. The first set is causing him a loss. Okay, so what's the chiddush in that? If they're related, what's the point? The chiddush of Unashasaying goes to so. Here's the point: the two wives who were caused the two Edom to be related. They were related. The two Edom were the second set of Edom. The two guys, I'll call them number 3, number 4, were married to two sisters, but the two sisters were dying. They were on their deathbeds. Okay, so what's the point here? What's the chiddush in that? Mao, the same, I'm say Rav Gosen Lemisa. We have a klal. Most people who are goses, who are about to die, will die. Some survive, but most will die. So you say, since they're both going to, since it Rav Gosen Lemisa, therefore, number 3 and number 4, the second set of witnesses are still potential witnesses, and therefore the first set shouldn't be chayav when they deny testimony. Go to them. They'll be able to testify in 5 minutes as soon as their wives pass away, right? So Kamash Mola, we don't say that. Why? Because Hashtami lo shachav. The Bach takes it out, because Tosas takes it out, because Tosas explains. But still, right now they're alive, and therefore, when number 1 and number 2 deny testimony, number 3 and they deny testimony, why are they chayiv? Because they did cause them a loss. Because at the time that they denied the testimony with a shvua, number 3 and number 4 couldn't testify because they were married to 2 sisters. Rashi learns they were married to 2 sisters. Tosas has a whole point here, and he says, listen to this. He says, when they're puzzled, they just not only puzzled right now to testify, but they were puzzled originally too. Originally, they were also puzzled. Now, what do you mean by originally they were puzzled? He says because Adam, in order to be no good, comes Shas Rias Adis, the third. Second Tos says, to be an aid, you have to be kosher at the beginning. For example, let's say a 5-year-old comes, saw a murder take place, and 10 years later, he's 15 years old. He's bar mitzvah now. Can he testify about something that he saw when he was 5? No, he wasn't kosher to be an aid then. You have to be a kosher about the time you saw the event take place and be kosher now. So Tosa says it has to be speaking about where they were they were invalid witnesses both then and now. Now, so according to Tosas, though, according to Rashi, it doesn't make sense. Why? Because Rashi says they were married to 2 sisters. Married to 2 sisters doesn't passel you as an aid. You're not like a goslin or something like that. And second of all, each one of those, number 3 and number 4, were married to 2 sisters. Sisters Dinah, but they were kosher witnesses originally. They could have number 4 could have joined with number 5, just some guy off the street who saw the thing take place too. That didn't. He only puzzled from testifying with his brother-in-law when they're both ladies because they're married to 2 sisters. But either number 3 or number 4 could have joined with number 5 or number 6, 2 guys off the street, and give testimony. So they weren't really puzzled there. So what Tosas says, they say, okay, they were related then because you have to be kosher both at the beginning. Yeah, in other words, they weren't related then. But according to Tosas there, Rashi wouldn't say it. Rashi is married to 2 sisters. 2 sisters doesn't prevent you. You're not puzzle at the beginning. So therefore, you have to say that what Tosas means is they were related to the litigants. They're related to the litigants. Therefore, you understand they're related to the litigants. So then you have to say, hey, at the time that they saw Yankel, the plaintiff, lend $100 to Yankel that he owes him money, right? So they weren't married yet to the litigants. The Adam were the number 3, number 4 weren't married to the litigants. Let's say number 3 was married to one litigant, number 4 was married to another. They weren't married. Then they got married. So now when they come to testify, he asked me to testify. Right now they're married. Okay, but they're about to die. The wives are about to die, so it's not going to be a problem. They're not going to be related anymore. You understand? But according to Rashi, that they're married to 2 sisters, they were kosher originally too. They were kosher originally too. The fact that they were married, that the 2 Adam were married to 2 sisters, does not mean that they were not kosher at the time they saw the transaction take place, because each one could have been starved to somebody else. So I found this in my notes. And then I have my notes that my son Chaim Baruch should be found this in the Meiri on Shavuos also, that he also says that according to Tosas is going with the Shita of Rabbeinu Chananel and the Rambam, that when he was Karo, when you say the 2 Adam were number 3, number 4 were Krovim, they were Krovim to the litigants, which would have been invalidated them had they been Krovim at the time that the loan took place or that the transaction took place, that the plaintiff had given $100 to Yankel, that would have passed them as being witnesses. So therefore, you have to say they weren't married then to the litigants' wives or whatever it was. They weren't married then to those people, and therefore they were kosher then, and then they were kosher at the end when the women died. So that's the point of view. Mao, the same Rav Gosen Lemisa, Kamash Mola, we don't say that. All right, so that's the shot over here. But normally, if they wouldn't have been relatives, in other words, we're saying like this: if the plaintiff comes to you and says, "Listen, testify on my behalf, you're number 1 and number 2. Testify on my behalf that Yankel owes me $100," you know that. But there's also 3 and 4 who are kosher witnesses. 1 and 2 are not chayav because they didn't cause him the loss, because he could have said you can go on number 3, number 4. It's only when they deny testimony that could have brought the money to number 3 to the plaintiff. Says the Mishnah. If I'm causing you to swear, please swear to me that you don't know. In other words, like this: the plaintiff says, "Listen, you know that Yankel owes me $100 as a deposit that I gave him, and I lent him another $100, and he stole from me another $100, and he found another $100 that I lost or whatever, an item that was worth $100." And shvur she'ein anu yodim l'chaydes, and they swear we don't know testimony, we don't know anything. That's one shvur. One shvur. Ein chayv ben alachas. It's one shvur. They swore falsely. So talking about what shvur say is, you deny testimony when you know the testimony, and you swear you don't know, and you're causing the plaintiff the loss. But they made it in one shvur, even though the plaintiff said, "Listen, he owes me for this, he owes me for that, he owes me for a stole, he owes me for a loan, he owes me for a pekadon, he owes me all this different money, $100 for this, $200 for that, $300 for that, whatever it was." And you swear once, you only chayv once. Shvur she'ein anu yodim. Let's say they say shvur she'ein anu yodim. We don't know. But now, when I swear, I enumerate the various claims, different claims here. One is a claim that he stole. One is a claim that he found my lost item. One is a claim that I lent him money. One is a claim that I gave him a deposit. Let's say you enumerate each them in your loan, in your 1 and 2 are swearing that we don't know any testimony. A deposit, a loan, a stolen item, a robbed item, or a lost item. Then you're chayv each one because you enumerated each one. So there, in this case, it's you enumerated the different claims. Now, the next case is going to be similar, but there it's one claim with different items. I make you swear, will you testify for me that this guy, Yankel, has a pekadon of what? Of chit and sorum kusman. He has both what? Wheat, barley, and spelt, right? Michael Kusman is spelt. I think so, right? Spelt. Shvur she'ein anu yodim l'cha'edus. They say, no, we swear we don't know anything, and only chayv one. So the chiddush in the first case was they were different claims, a loan, a robbery, whatever it was. Now it's one claim with different items. You only chayv one. Shvur, but if you enumerate each one, shvur she'ein anu, we swear we don't know any edus for you. Sheish chaviyad ploni that Yankel has of yours. All 3 wheat, barley, and spelt. Chayv on each and every one. So again, you see, when is the shvur edus? When the plaintiff says this guy owes me money in some way or form, or an item or metalton worth money, and you deny that. Depends how you deny it, but if you deny it and you weren't telling the truth, it turns out you were lying, you have to bring a korban olav yoreh. Now, let's say it says nezek. Listen carefully. He owes me money. He damaged me. Right? He damaged me. He hurt me. I have to pay for my doctor bills. Chatzi nezek. What is chatzi nezek? When do you pay chatzi nezek? Remember? Beginning of Baba Kama, right? Chatzi nezek. If you're sure damage of the first 3 times, chatzi nezek, isn't that a knas? So we'll see. Knas is a question, right? He asked me where he owes me money. The plaintiff says he owes me money. He took my money. I gave him a deposit, whatever. But if it's a knas, we're not so sure. We'll see. Is chatzi nezek knas? Tashlumi kefil, owes me kefil. Tashlumi avrach misha. We'll see in all these cases, even though there could be a knas involved, we're talking about his only money because he's chayiv in these cases. Tashlumi avrach misha. She'anas ish plonius biti. Chas v'chulila. The man raped his daughter. Now he raped his daughter. Doesn't he owe him $50? Right? 50. Yeah, but that's a knas. But there's also the busha. So all these things will involve real money, not just a knas. Because for knas, we can't prove it. Pitas bita, or he seduced my daughter, whatever it's chayiv. Shikani b'ni, let's say my son hurt me. Now, chas v'chalila, if a son draws blood on his father, it's chayiv death. But let's say he just damaged him, he didn't draw blood, then he's only chayiv for busha, as we'll see. So all these cases, he's saying that Yankel, whoever Yankel is chayiv money to me. Shechavo b'chaveri, he hurt me. Even my friend caused me damage. Even he bruised me, drew blood. All these cases, he owes me money. Shidlik as kedishim Yom Kippur. He lit my field or my pile of produce on Yom Kippur. Now, what would you say there? All these cases, if they lied, they're chayiv. Now, isn't this a case of Kamla Rabineh? Because what? He violated Yom Kippur by lighting a match and on Yom Kippur. The fire. But when do you say kamar only we're going with the shita that you're only chayav Kamramine, when there's a Chi of Misas Bezdin, but not Chi of course. On Yom Kippur, there's no Chi of Misas Bezdin. On Shabbos, if you did something b'meisid, you're chayiv either chorus if there's no witnesses. If there's witnesses, you're chayiv misas bezdin. Yom Kippur, you're only chayiv chorus. There's no misas bezdin on Yom Kippur. So therefore, in all these cases, he's asking for money. You know that this guy owes me money. Whether he damaged me, he did this to me, even if my son hurt me, he's chayiv for embarrassing me. All these things chayiv money. In all these cases, you're chayiv. Boy, now the Gemara says, mashbiyan a knas mao. What happens? I say, you know that he owes me a knas. Knas could be what? Knas is always a fixed amount, $50, $100, whatever it was, right? A knas, double. It's a fixed amount, double what you burgled from me, right? So what about if because would you say there too? So Gemara leave it. Rav Lazar Rav Shimon, Lo Tibach. Rav Lazar Rav Shimon holds like this. Listen to this. We have a cloud. Moda b'knas is what? Potter, right? If a guy says, "Yeah, I moda that I did this," he doesn't have to pay the knas. He has to pay the value, the real value, the money that he owes, but not the knas. That's not the extra, the fixed amount. So moda b'knas is potter. What happens? Moda b'knas v'achkoch bo edim. I had edim. This guy admitted to me before my edim came. He admitted to me that he's chayiv for the knas. He admitted moda b'knas is potter. But then when I've edim anyway, if I have edim before he came, then he has to pay. Moda b'knas is potter. What about moda b'knas v'achkoch bo edim? So Rav Lazar Rav Shimon says that moda b'knas v'achkoch bo edim is still chayiv. So according to Rav Lazar Rav Shimon, I got witnesses. I don't care if you moda b'knas or moda b'knas, but if I evade them, if these people could testify for me and they deny it, they could be mechayev the guy money, even though the guy's moda. So according to him, there's no question that the Adam would be chayev because they're denying him money. Because moda b'knas v'achkoch bo edim Adam. If the Adam would come and testify, the defendant would have to pay. According to Rabbanan, the army moda b'knas v'achkoch bo edim is potter. So what do you say over here? You see, when I tell the Adam, I say, Adam, you know that this guy owes me $50 of knas because he seduced his daughter, right? He owes me $50 of knas. And they denied the testimony. Are they causing me a loss? Not necessarily, because if the guy's moda, he wouldn't have to pay anyway. So they're not necessarily causing me a loss. So according to Rabbanan, moda b'knas v'achkoch is potter. That's the question. For Rabbanan, those are Rabbanan who say moda b'knas v'achkoch is potter. Who do they hold over here when it comes to davar gam l'mamet? The question we discussed yesterday when there was one aid. One aid can cause the guy to make a shvu. You can't cause him to lose money. If two Adam come and say Yankel owes me $100, he has to pay $100. If one aid comes, they can cause Yankel to make a shvua. Shvua can't swear, so then he will have to pay. But that's not direct. He's indirectly causing the guy to pay. Or if he denies that, then he's indirectly not causing him to pay. So who do the Rabban over there hold like? So it's causing a loss of money, right? Because if it's causing a loss. Why? Because the guy may not admit it, right? The guy may not admit it, so therefore maybe you are causing the loss. Elik Rabbanan, Rashi Rashi says, it's not worse than Garm Lamamon. If he doesn't pay, so it's no worse than the Davar Lamamon. I'm causing a loss. Rather, the rabbis who say that moda b'knas v'achkoch is potter go like the Rabbanan over here. The Amri Davar Lamamon is lav kamamon dami. So that's our question. The fact that it's a cause, if the guy doesn't moda, that's not good enough. Davar Lamamon is not kamamon dami. So you might say, and we're going to see on the base, that the claim here for Shvuas Eidus has to be where the plaintiff is claiming money, not some status or something like that. He's claiming money, or something worth money. So over here, when I say you know that he owes me knas, is that money? That's not money. Is that money or not? My keeping the ilam moda mifta, since if he's moda, he's part of lab mamonica kafir like, because might be moda anyway. When I say you come and testify that he owes me $100, yes, but the guy might be moda anyway, that he owes the money, that he owes $50 or $100, whatever the knas is, and then he's off the hook. So I'm not causing you a loss. You might lose the money anyway if he's moda. So that's the question. Keeping the ilam moda mifta lab mamonica, if it's not denying money. The fact is, right now he wasn't moda yet. Once the guy owes him, once the guy's moda and his moda b'knas is potter, then according to Rabbanan who say moda b'knas v'achkoch is potter, then there's nothing to talk about. But over here, the guy hadn't been moda yet. In other words, what am I saying? The plaintiff says, listen, you know that Yankel owes me $50 because he raped the daughter, right? You know that. Come and testify about that. You know about that. Testify about that. So you could say, well, listen, and they deny the testimony, are they causing the loss of $50? Not necessarily, because the rapist might be moda on his own. If he's moda on his own, he doesn't have to pay. So then he's not really causing the loss. That's our question. Tashma. So we're going to try and prove from our Mishnah. Ah, you said chatzi nezek is a knas, but chatzi nezek is a knas, and still you see you're chayev. So you see what that motive that mashbia ate a knas should be chayev. The answer is no. Commandam rapalgan is kamon. It's a machlokas and babakami. Remember whether is when you pay chatzi nezek, is that mamon? In other words, that's what you have to pay. Technically, you should pay the whole thing. But we give you a break the first 3 times that your animal gored, we give you a 50% discount, right? But really you owe the whole thing. So the $50 that you pay is moment. Or is it knas? Really, you shouldn't pay anything. The first 3 times, not your responsibility, but it's a knas to be more careful with the Qatar Geviyah. So machlok is there. So we'll go like the man number that it says that's mamon. We can't prove from our Mishnah knas. That's fine if you all passing in a moment. If you all chatzi nezek is a knas, so why in our Mishnah you say you have to, if you deny testimony about chatzi nezek, they're chayiv to pay. That shows that you're chayiv to pay, even that mashbia ate a knas should be chayiv. They're chayiv for their shvua for swearing falsely. Michael, the answer, but chatzi nezek sro was still chikamirla. The chatzi nezek, we're not talking about chatzi nezek, which is what a tolda of shore that the shore damages with his horn, right? Of Karen, where it's told of that, but rather there's a special halacha that if an animal is walking on the street and it's normal for him to shoot out rocks. When he steps on rocks, they ricochet off, they shoot out from underneath him, they sprout from underneath him. That's really regel. And regel, you're chayiv, all animals are chayiv for regel. You're not doing chayiv for regel because that's a normal damage. You have to be careful that your animal doesn't damage with his foot. However, if it's in Sroros where he didn't damage directly with his foot, but rather he stepped on a rock and it shot out from underneath him. What's the English word for that? Not ricochet, but rather whatever. It sprouted out from under his leg. That's called chatzi nezek is halacha moshe misinai, and that's mamon. The it's not a knas. That's halacha moshe misinai that's mamon. So again, our Mishnah speaking about mamon. We're trying to prove if I ask two Adam to come and testify on behalf of that this Yankel owes me knas, and they deny that, they lie about that, are they chayiv shvuas of carbon over yared? So we can't prove that, right? We say these are all cases of mamon, not knas. What about the next other case? Mishum kefel. Kefel is definitely knas, right? The answer is mishum karna. You're chayiv for the keren. You're chayiv. I guess the second part for the kefel. You're not chayiv for the double part. You're chayiv for the main part, for the principal. Tashlumi dal that also mishum karna. Sha'anis Ish Ploni. What about he raped Ish Ploni raped his daughter, upitas bita, or seduced his daughter? What about that? That's a knas. Mishum boshes, because besides the $50, 50 shekel, you also have to pay for shame. That's money. That's not mishum boshes upgam for boshes for the shame. Upgam's the devaluation. Mike mashmulam. So what's the chiddush in all this? Kula mamon. They're all cases of money. What do you teach me all these cases? If it's not knas and it's mamon, what's the chiddush in that? The first part of Mishnah is taking one chiddush. Seif is telling me another part. Reisha charak mashwan. The chatzi nezek throws mamon. That's a chiddush, confirming that chatzi nezek is mamon. Chatzi nezek throws where the animal did the damage with his foot, but not directly with his foot, but rather it shot out, the rock shot out from under his foot. That's mamon. Halacha mashbiseni. It's mamon. Seif mashwan. What's the chiddush there? Sheidlik eskedish b'yom kippur. That he lit my pile of produce on Yom Kippur. Why? What's the chiddush there? That you're chayiv. Why? Lapuke mai lapukim Rav Shapiro. Rav Shapiro kind of holds that kamlam ramadi that we say when you're chayiv misa, you're potter from paying for damages. That's even by misas kares like misa shemayim with on Yom Kippur. Lapukim Rav Shapiro. The time Rav Shapiro kind of hayosa Yom Kippur kashabas l'tashlumin for that you don't have to pay. Remember the rule? A man throws a knife from yard into Rosh Hashanah, and on the way it tears through somebody's shirt, he doesn't have to pay for the shirt. Why? Because he's chayav misa for Shabbos for throwing something into Rosh Hashanah. So the same way, Ma Shabbos, you chayav benafsho and you don't pay for damage. Same thing with Yom Kippur. So that's the chiddush of the Mishnah that we don't hold like a Bechon Mekana. That our Mishnah does not go like a Bechon Mekana, but rather on Yom Kippur, since there's no chayav misas bezdin, you are chayav to pay. Tashma. So we still have up the Tashma. Now we're going to bring proof not from our Mishnah, from a different case of Tosefta Brisa. Mashmir Aleichem, listen to this. Will you swear? Imlo Tavoy, I make you, cause you to swear that you have to come and testify on my behalf. The Taiduni, Shahotzi Ish Ploni, Shemer Albiti. this man came and remember what's Motzi Shemer, where a person gets married and then he comes to court after the night after the wedding and he says she wasn't a psula, right? Motzi Shemer. And if it turns out she really committed adultery between the Erusin and the Suin, right? She was an Erusin and Suin, she's Chayiv Misa, if there's Adam, etc. If not, he has to pay $100 for being Motzi Shemer and he has to stay married to her. So he said over here, I'm coming to testify. Please testify that this man was Motzi Shemer on that bezdin. I didn't get a chance to give him to pay the $100, but he owes me the $100. I want you to come testify. Chayavin, they're chayav for the shvuas thing. So what do you see? Even by a knas, there's hodem peatzma. If he was moda on his own, if the husband was moda on his own, that he falsified his testimony and he said that she wasn't psul where she was, then you don't have to pay because moda b'knas is pater. So what do you see? This is a knas. We're talking about the $100 of knas, and still you see that there could be chayav there. The Gemara says no. Hamani Rav Lezer Shimon goes like Shimon to Amri Yavo Eidim V'Yayidu. It's speaking about what? That even if you're moda, but moda b'knas v'achar Eidim is pater. So even it's chayav. Rav Lezer Shimon tells moda b'knas is pater only if there's no Eidim. If Eidim come afterwards, it'd be chayav. So therefore, this will go like Rav Lezer Shimon. You want to prove according to what we already said at the beginning. According to Rav Lezer Shimon, moda b'knas v'achar Eidim is chayav. So certainly, yeah. So it must be 80 knas is also chayiv. Why? Because even if the guy's moda, if you would come and testify in my behalf, even though the rapist or whoever it is, the person who falsified the testimony, and he even if he was moda, but if I have Adam, that can be chayiv, you have to pay anyway. So according to him, certainly must be 80 knas is chayiv. Hamani Rav Shimon Lazar Damar Adam Yayidu. Another moda knas for Adam is chayiv. Hey, Maseifer, wait a minute. How can you say goes like Rav Shimon? It says Hodemi Atzmo, you're potter. That's not Rav Lezer Shimon. So that's not Rabbana. That goes like the Rabbana saying Rav Knas Vachkar is potter. How can one part go like Rav Lezer Shimon, one part like Rabbana? So tomorrow, cooler Rav Lezer Shimon. It's all Rav Lezer Shimon. Bracha Kamer. Lo mishkachas lo hodem if the atzmo the potter elahecha delek edem klal v'hodem atzmo. That's what he comes to say. When he says hodem atzmo potter, means you're only potter if you don't have any edem, and that he's motor by himself, then you're potter. But if there's edem, even if the husband who lied about his wife and said she wasn't a virgin, even if he lied about his wife and he was moda, and then he was moda, he's still chayiv if you have Adam. In other words, if you don't have any Adam, then if he's moda, then he's potter. But Rav Lezer Shimon says that, so we'll say our mission, that price, and go like Rav Lezer Shimon. So therefore, we can't prove our question. According to Rav Lezer Shimon, that moda b'knas v'achar Adam is chayiv. So certainly is chayiv, right? He's chayiv to pay the knas. So certainly mashbia 80 knas is also chayiv. I make you fair. Would you swear? Please. You know testimony that Yanko owes me $100, or you know he owes me a knas, right? You could testify. If you would testify, I would get my money. So if you don't testify, you're causing me a loss of money. You're chayiv for that shvua. According to Rabbanan, though, we're not sure about knas. Only by money, not by knas. We'll see. It's only when it comes to money matters. Now, the next mission is going to show us that it's not. If it's not money matters, if it's not money, you're not chayiv. Then the shvua, they're not chayiv for they're wrong for swearing falsely. They should come and testify. If a man asks you, please come and testify on my behalf. But they're not chayiv a shvua. They're not chayiv a korban obiyorid for that false shvua. They're questioning. I want to get Cohen in the morning here. They won't give me Cohen. I'm a Cohen. Don't you know? Everybody thinks I'm not a Cohen. You know I'm a Cohen. Please come and test my Me'ef Shani Levi. I'm a Levi. Right? Levi gets more Elias sometimes. Shani Ben Grusha, that I'm not a Ben Grusha. People are testifying that even though my father's a Cohen, they claim my mother was divorced. She wasn't divorced. Please testify. Shani Ben Chalutza, Sheish Plani Cohen, or that man is a Cohen. Please come and testify that man is a Cohen. That's not good either. It's got to be for me. It's got to be my money. So the first part is that it's not even money. We're talking about status over here, right? Or the Ish Ploni Cohen, Ish Ploni Levi. Or She'en Ben Grusha, talking about somebody else. Or She'anis Ish Ploni is Bita. Or that Yanko raped Shmerel's daughter. Not me. No, it's not related to me. I testify about that. It's not my money. All these cases we're going to see there's no Yanachai Karbanol V'Yorid because it's not money. Or even if it's money, it's not my money. It's somebody else's. Pitas Bita, or raped his daughter, or seduced his daughter. V'shachavo bi b'ni, or chas v'chalila, my son drew blood on me. Chas v'chalila, son's chayiv misa. Chas v'chalila. If a man says, man says his son drew blood on him. Son drew, but if there's Adam that a man, a 20-year-old man hurt his father, drew blood, he's chayiv misa. Shachavo b'ni. So therefore, there's no damage over here because he's chayiv misa, so he wouldn't have to pay. Shachavo bi chavera, or or chava b'chavere, my friend damaged me, my friend hurt me, right? Or shehidlik gedishi b'Shabbos. These two cases are on Shabbos. Chava b'chavere, if my friend drew blood on me, he has to pay, right? He has to pay damages. And that's like Shabbos, but he did it on Shabbos. He drew blood on Shabbos. Yechayev misa for Shabbos. Or shehidlik gedishi b'Shabbos. On Shabbos, everybody else come to Rav Minei Harel P'turin. They're put because there's no money. There's no money involved over here. You say this guy lit my burned down my barn on Shabbos, right? He's chayiv misa for that. He doesn't have to pay, right? Or the man says that somebody drew blood on me on Shabbos. Also, he's chayiv misa. You don't have to pay. In all these cases, you don't have to pay either because there's no claim of money, or because it's for somebody else, or because there's potter because of the Shabbos because of Kol Merabei. Time at the Ish Ploni Kohen, Ish Ploni Levi. It's much more the reason you're potter. Hamana leploni biad ploni chayavim. Let's say he just says, you know that Yankel owes Shmerel $100. Come and testify for that. You're chayav. We're going to see later on in the Mishnah that what? You have to hear from the Tovei himself, from the plaintiff. The plaintiff, it's not the defendant. I mentioned the other day, defendant. It's not true. It's got to be the plaintiff. The plaintiff has to be as the one making the claim. Here it's not the plaintiff. Here it's me saying that Yankel owes Shmerel. On behalf of Shmerel, I'm asking for money. Speaking about, we came with the power of attorney, came with an authorization where he gave it to me. You don't write a shah on metalton because it might look false. You don't know for sure if he guy has it or not. So that's only where the defendant denied it. Then it doesn't mean much. You write our shah for that. That's what it's speaking about over here. It's got to be the Toveya. So it's mashma over here that if a man did money, and if I say that, listen, I'm collecting, you know that Yankel owes Shmerel $100, and here's the proof. I have a proof that Shmerel gave me an authorization, like a power of attorney to collect it, then it would have something because he's asking for money, and he's acting on behalf of the plaintiff. How do we know? I've been saying that, this is only when he's claiming money, not when he's claiming status or anything like that. And it's got to be where the plaintiff demanded it, or the plaintiff's agent if he had an authorization or a power of attorney. How do we know it's only speaking about Fias Mammon? So Blazer Omer Nemakan O-in. Knows what do you mean Neman own? But when it comes to the Shavuos Eidus, Rashi near the bottom says Nemakan O-in, O-Ra, O-Yada. When it comes to the Shavuos Eidus, it says O-O, and then the whole O, and it says by Pikshuas Pikadon. It says also O Betsumas Yad, O Begezel, etc., etc. Just like the Pikadon. What's the Shavuos Pikadon? This guy owes me money. He has a deposit of mine. He has my money. I lent him money, whatever. That's Afkan Enadam. Oh, wait a minute. So what do you mean? Oh, in the Rotseach Yochich. What do you mean? By Rotseach, it also says if he hit him with a hammer, if he hit him with a, Obe'eva Yiko, or Hishlach Alabetzliya, there it also says, and there's no money there. Sheino and Umidvarim Shelo B'Tfias Mammon. Right? Owen Rotseach Yochich, Shehain Owen, Umidvarim Shelo B'Tfias Mammon. There we're not talking about something where there's money involved. The answer is, done an Owen Sheishiman Shvua, Mion Sheishan Shvua. Here's an Owen, like Bikadon, which has a Shvua, and it says, there several times. Owen Dorotseach, She'eni Munshvua. There's no Shvua over there, so you can't learn from there. You can't learn there that it fucks out even things that are not money. What about Owen Desote Yochichu? She'en Owen, V'yeshimon Shvua, there's a Shvua that she has to swear that she didn't commit adultery. Umidvarm Shalom Etfias Mammon. And that's speaking about, or medabrim. I'm not sure if the word is medabrim or medvarim. Medabrim shalom. If they were speaking about where there's no claim of money, we're talking about that she committed adultery. It says, "Done an Owen sheishiman shvua ve'eniman kos." The answers we'll learn Owen, which have a shvua, like shvua se'edus and shvua bekadin, and there's no kohen involved like there is by sota. The Owen sheishiman shvua ve'eniman kohen, like bekadin and edus, which have a shvua and there's no kohen. Owen dorotzech. Don't learn from rotzech. She'eni mon shvua. There's no shvua involved. Owen desota shap b'sheishim shvua yeshimon kohen, and there's no kohen here. Okay, so that's one way to learn because we're learning from shvuas bikadon that it has to be a claim of money, like bikadon. Rabbi Kiva Omer from this drasha. Here it says when they'll be guilty of one of these. Sometimes you're chayiv, sometimes you're not. Okay, so tavar mammon chayiv. If you claim money, then you're chayiv. Davar acher, if you claim something else like status or whatever, or something for somebody else, or something that didn't involve money, you're potter. The Gemara is going to ask, and tomorrow's Gemara is going to say, how do you know which one is which? Maybe you're only chayiv when it's other things other than money. The Gemara will see it. We'll see. Rabbi Yossi Galis is the third reason. How do we know that the claim over here, when you deny shvua seis, when you deny testimony. When you deny testimony, you're chayav carbon over yored. How do you know we're speaking about a claim of money? Let's think about it says, for who aid ora o yada. Yes, he's a witness that he either saw or knows. Now, sometimes you could see things and sometimes you can know things. They're not necessarily the same. For example, Be'edus HaMaskayamos is edus that could be established by either by sight, below yadi, without understanding. What do we mean by that? We'll explain. Uvi below ria, or you know it without seeing it. Hakas medaber. Well, you didn't see the transaction, but you know it. How so? Re'ia below yadi. How is seeing without knowing? Kesad. Mana manisi l'cha b'fnei ploni ploni. I counted out money to you, right? Mana manisi l'cha b'fnei ploni ploni. I lent money to you. I gave you money in front of these two guys. So you vote ploni ploni v'idu zui ria below yadi. They don't know what the money was for. When I gave you money, I say, listen, you use two, right? You saw me give him $100. Well, they don't know if I lent them $100. Maybe I was paying back the $100 that I gave them. That's what they saw it without knowing what took place. So there you could have a yediyah without riyah. There you could have a riyah without a yediyah. Yediyah below riyah case. So the first one is what yediyah riyah below yediyah case. When I'm ploni, you vote ploni. You don't let them testify that I gave you the money. Zui riyah below yediyah. Yediyah below riyah. What's that? Okay, so you admitted to me in front of those two guys that you owe me $100. You admitted it to me. You didn't see the transaction, but you heard them admit it to me. Admit to me. That's the idea of that's the idea without riyah. Idea below riyah case of mono dislach ploni ploni. Yavo ploni ploni. Let him give testimony. Zui idea below riyah. So that's what we're talking about here. It says either you saw it, maybe without understanding what took place, or you know what took place without seeing it because he admitted in front of me. So it's got to be edus like that. That's the edus that we're talking about, and that's with the question of money, not something like that doesn't involve money. Shimon Omer, it says chayiv kam b'chayiv b'kod. In both cases, for shvuas b'kod, if you deny that I owe you money, in other words, I owe you, you claim I owe you money, and I deny to you, and I swear falsely about it, and then I admit it. I have to not only pay you, and I have to bring a carbon asham. I have to add 25% also. Both cases, you're chayav. Malahola and enim medabel b'tfias mammon, just like for pekadon is tfias mammon. Afkan enim medabel b'tfias mammon. So it's also based on pekadon, but before it was with the O's because it says O in both cases, and here it's because in both cases they're talking about your chayav. Ba'ol kavacham have a kavachom from pekadon. Listen to this. Ma pekad by pekadon she'asa b'nashim kanashim. When it comes, we're not talking about giving testimony in court with two people. We're just talking about a person says, you come and say, I owe you money. And I said, it could be your wife also. It could be a woman also. A woman could also deny that she owes you money or could claim the money, right? And women also swear that they don't owe you the money and then they admitted that they do, or chayiv, for shvus b'kadon. Krovim kerchokim, whether related or not. You can have fights in family about who owes money to whom. It happens on occasion. Psulim kiksheim, whether they're puzzle or kosher, don't have to be kosher witnesses in court. They can swear this. V'chayev al kol achas v'chayis, you're chayev on each and every one. B'fnei bezin v'shlo b'fnei bezin, and you're chayev on each and every one. We'll see what the Gemara is going to talk about that. Right, you're chayev on each on every one. Every time you swore, you're chayev. I swear I don't owe you the money. I swear I don't owe you the money. I swear I don't owe you the money. You're chayev on each and every one. B'fnei bezin v'shlo b'fnei bezin, in front of court or not in court. You're chayev. Don't have to be in court for shvus b'kadon. Right. And there it's only tfias mammon. So manach chayiv in all those cases by shvus b'kadon, and it's only money. Edus shelo also about nashim nashim. When it comes to shvus edus, where women cannot testify, women aren't kosher to testify in court. Krom krochim, if they're related, they can't testify. They're either related to each other, related to the litigants that we talked about before. And psulim kishem, if they're puzzle edus, if they're gazlan or whatever, they're no good. Ein chayiv alachas. Remember, if they swore 10 times in court, they're only chayiv once, because once they testify in court, they can't change their testimony anyway. Ein adin shalei medaber ela b'tiyas mammon, certainly shalei b'tiyas mammon. So the Gemara says, okay, it's a good kavachomer. Malab b'kadon shalo also bo mushba kanishba. B'kadon, the mushba, the one who that person who was forsworn by another person is not like the person who swore himself. Now, how does that make sense? Before we said that it does apply by b'kadon, the Gemara will talk about that at tomorrow's daf. We're already on tomorrow's daf. Umezit kishogeg. By pekada, and you're not chayiv if you're amazed by a shogeg, because right. Whereas by shvuas edus, you're chayiv whether you swore you lied on purpose or not. Tomer be'edus, she can't ask about mushba v'kumash. By edus, by shvuas edus, your mushba is like a nishba. Again, we'll see what that is tomorrow. Umezit kishogeg, even if you lied on purpose, you still chayiv the carbon shvuah. You're chayiv the carbon of yored. Talmud. So again, so the kavachomer isn't so strong. Talmud, we have exever shava. It says techata in one, by Shavuos Eidus and by Shavuos B'Kodin, L'Gzeir Shava. So basically, we're besides Rabbi Kiva who learns out from Rashi Kiyeshem Elachas Me'ela, we're basically, or the one Rav Yossi Glib says, the other ones, the first ones and these last ones, Reb Shimon and the first opinion, Reb Lezer, are saying what based on learning out from B'Kodin. Do you learn out from B'Kodin because of OO, or do you learn out from B'Kodin because what? Because they're both chayiv. Now he's learning it out from Gzeir Shava, which is very strong. It says Techta in both cases, Gzeir Shava. Never kan Techta and Mahon Techta. It says both by here, by Edus and by B'Kodin Techta. Malon and Medaber El B'Tfias Moment, just like B'Kodin is only a moment. Afkan Medaber B'Tfias Moment. Maskul Rabbarula. Oh, what about Shavuos Bitui that we're not talking about anymore, right? Where I swear I'm going to eat the sandwich or not eat the sandwich. There it says Yichichu, right? Shehein Owen, right? Yes, the kash on the first one. There on the Eshban Iman Shvua, Vein Iman Coin, Umadabre Umadvarim Shlo B'Tfias, Umadabre more, Umadabre Shlo B'Tfias, when they were talking about where it's not a Tfias Mamon, there's no money over there. So why don't you learn from there that what? And by Shavuos Bitui, you don't say that. So how do you know? And that's not only speaking about moment. I'm going to eat a sandwich. I'm not going to eat a sandwich. I did this yesterday, that. So why don't you learn from Shavuos Bitui that it doesn't have to be dafka about a claim of money. As Mustaver mi B'Kodin havle lameh. Better learn from B'Kodin. Why shekain techta mi techta? Because you have lashon what techta, which is Gzeir Shava. Adarab Bitui I've learned from there. Shekain chatos mi chatos. Shavuos Bitui is chayv chatos korban al v'yorei. Here it's also chatos korban v'yorei. Whereas by Shavuos B'Kodin it's an asham. Ella Mistav Mekodon have like better even forgotten why Shekain Chait. They both involve a sin, right? As opposed to Shavuos Bitui, it's not a sin. In both cases here, you deny your testimony, but it's not a sin, right? You're chai what? By Mekodon Shekain Chait, it's a sin and mezid, right? You're chai mezid as well as shogeg. There's a claim and a denial. Va'avrei, we're talking about the past. Zadarav mi bitol melech shekain chatos. Because in chatos olaviore, right? Because by B'Kodin it's not a chatos derasham, but by bitoi maybe you should learn from bitoi that it should apply even to non-money issues, right? Because they're both chai v'chatos korban olaviore. Shiur number one, it's an olaviore as opposed to a fixed carbon like an asham, and the chomish and what and there's no chomish involved. Only by Shavuos B'Kodin is do you add on 25%. The answer is Hanach Nefishin. It's more likely to learn out from what? From B'Kodin, because there's more similarities there. There's Chait, there's Mezid, there's a claim and a counterclaim and a denial, and it's talking about the past. Whereas Shavuos Bitui is talking about generally, so the main part of Shavuos Bitui is about the future. So the machlokas, whether it applies to the past also, we have the machlokas Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel, but it basically is talking about the future, and therefore it's more likely to learn from B'Kodin. So that's what we learn at. But we're still not done. This whole idea that it's only money, we have the different sheets. Rabbi Kiva said this, Rabbi Lezer said this. We'll analyze this more tomorrow as we continue from here. Have a good day. Chag Sameach L'Kulam.